The first thing you need to know about my wife, Aven, is that she never goes anywhere without posting about it. Instagram stories, Facebook check-ins, Twitter updates about her overpriced coffee. The woman documents her existence like she's running for office. So when she vanished for 3 days without a single digital breadcrumb, I knew something was wrong. My name is Soren Valden, and I install security systems for a living. Ironic, considering I completely missed the warning signs in my own home. For 38 years, I've been the guy who notices everything: loose wires, faulty sensors, blind spots in coverage. But somehow I missed my wife planning her great escape. "I need some time to find myself," she'd said that Tuesday morning, her voice carrying that practiced tone she used with difficult clients at her HR job. "There's this wellness retreat in Colorado. Very exclusive, very private. No phones, no distractions." I was drinking coffee and reading installation manuals when she dropped this bomb. The mug stayed halfway to my lips as I processed her words. "Since when are you into wellness retreats?" I asked. She was already moving around the kitchen, avoiding eye contact, stuffing items into her oversized purse. "Since I realized I've been living someone else's life for too long." That stung, but I kept my voice level. "How long?" "A month. Maybe longer. I'll know when I know." A month. She said it like she was talking about a weekend trip to the grocery store. I watched her pack 2 suitcases with the efficiency of someone who'd been planning this for weeks. Designer clothes, expensive shoes, that jewelry set her mother gave her for our anniversary. Not exactly retreat wear. "What's the name of this place?" I asked. "Mountain Spirit Sanctuary," she replied without hesitation. Too quick, too smooth. "They're very strict about privacy. No contact with the outside world." I nodded and went back to my manual, but my installer instincts were screaming. In my line of work, you learn to spot when someone's setting up a false front. The way she wouldn't meet my eyes, the rehearsed answers, the sudden urgency to leave, all classic signs of deception. She kissed my forehead before leaving, the same perfunctory gesture she'd been giving me for months. "Take care of yourself, Soren. Maybe use this time to think about what you really want." The house felt different after she left. Not empty exactly, but relieved somehow, like a held breath finally released. I gave it 2 days before I started investigating. Mountain Spirit Sanctuary didn't exist. I checked every wellness retreat in Colorado, cross-referenced her credit card statements, even called a buddy who works in hospitality. Nothing. The place was as fictional as her explanation. That's when I called Rory. Rory Valden, technically Rory Cartwright now, though she kept her maiden name after her divorce, is Aven's younger sister and the only member of that family worth knowing. Where Aven is all polished surfaces and careful presentation, Rory is sharp edges and brutal honesty. She works as a nurse at City General, deals with real problems every day, and has zero patience for drama. "She's not at any retreat," I told her over the phone. "Of course she isn't," Rory said. "My sister hasn't found herself in 36 years. She's not going to start now in some mountain commune. Any ideas where she might actually be?" There was a pause. "Soren, how long has it been since you two were actually happy?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean happy. Laughing together, looking forward to seeing each other, acting like you actually like being married." I thought about it. Really thought about it. "I don't know. A year? Maybe longer. Then maybe this is for the best." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Rory's question and coming up with the same uncomfortable answer. Aven and I had been going through the motions for so long that I'd forgotten what the real thing felt like. But lying about where she was going, that was something else entirely. The breakthrough came on Friday, courtesy of Felix Rourke. Felix is one of those guys who collects friends like trophies and throws parties to show them off. He owns some kind of consulting business that nobody really understands, but apparently pays well enough for a penthouse downtown, and a Porsche he loves more than most people love their children. He'd been sniffing around Aven for years, always with some excuse to text her or drop by when I wasn't home. I'd mentioned it to her once, and she'd laughed it off. Felix? He's harmless. Just lonely since his divorce. Harmless. Right. The text came at 2 p.m. Thought you should see this. 3 screenshots followed. Hotel receipts from the Grandview downtown, dinner charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, and a text exchange that made my stomach drop. Can't wait to see you tonight. Room 412. A. Already here waiting. You're going to love what I have planned. F. The timestamps showed they'd been sent the night before. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at my phone for a long time, waiting for anger or hurt or something dramatic. Instead, I felt oddly calm, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. My wife wasn't finding herself at some retreat. She was finding herself in Felix Rourke's bed. The funny thing about being a security installer is that you develop a very practical approach to problems. When someone breaks into a house, you don't just fix the window, you upgrade the whole system to make sure it doesn't happen again. I spent the weekend making some upgrades of my own. First, I changed the locks. All of them. Front door, back door, garage, even the little used side entrance. New deadbolts, new keys, new everything. If Aven wanted back in, she'd have to ask nicely. Second, I called my old college buddy Dean Calix. Dean's a divorce attorney now, the kind who specializes in messy cases and doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. We'd kept in touch over the years, mostly through holiday cards and the occasional beer when he was in town. "Soren," he said when he picked up, "please tell me you're calling because you need a lawyer and not because you want to grab a drink and complain about your marriage." "Both, actually." "Excellent. My office, Monday morning, 9 sharp. Bring everything. Bank statements, property deeds, photos of her with the boyfriend, whatever you've got." "How did you know there was a boyfriend?" "There's always a boyfriend, or a girlfriend, or a gambling problem, or a drug habit. People don't just wake up one day and decide to destroy their marriage for no reason." Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. Dean's office is exactly what you'd expect from a successful divorce lawyer. Expensive furniture, law books that probably cost more than my truck, and a view of downtown that screams, "I win cases." He listened to my story without interruption, taking notes on a legal pad and occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. "This is going to be fun," he said. "Fun? For me, yes. For your wife and her boyfriend, not so much." He flipped through his notes. "Colorado retreat that doesn't exist, hotel receipts, text messages, complete communication blackout. She's not exactly criminal mastermind material. What's our next move? We file immediately. Adultery, abandonment, fraud, the whole package. And we do it fast, before she realizes what's happening." He pulled out a thick folder. "I'm going to need you to sign some papers, and then we're going to have a very interesting conversation about asset protection." 2 hours later, I walked out of Dean's office feeling like a different person. Not better exactly, but focused, like I finally had a plan. The plan got more interesting when I got home and found Detective Lana Croft waiting on my front porch. Lana lives 3 houses down and works robbery homicide for the city police. We're not close friends, but we're good neighbors, the kind who collect each other's mail and keep an eye on things when someone's out of town. She's smart, observant, and has that cop instinct for knowing when something's not right. "Afternoon, Soren," she said. "Mind if we talk for a minute?" "Sure. Everything okay?" She glanced around like she was checking for eavesdroppers. "I've been seeing Aven's car at some interesting places lately. Thought you might want to know." My heart rate picked up, but I kept my voice casual. Oh yeah? Where's that? Felix Rourke's building. Multiple times, different hours, including overnight. She studied my face. I'm guessing this isn't news to you. Not anymore. She nodded. For what it's worth, I'm sorry, but I figured you deserved to know what your neighbors were seeing. I appreciate that. One more thing. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. This was taken last night. The image showed Aven and Felix on his balcony, sharing what looked like a very intimate conversation. She was wearing the red dress she'd bought for our anniversary dinner last year, the one she said was too special for just any occasion. Thanks, Lana. Really. Just being a good neighbor. She stood to leave, then turned back. Soren, whatever you're planning, keep it clean. I'd hate to have to arrest you. That evening, I was sitting in my kitchen, eating takeout Chinese and planning my next move, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You'll always wait for me. You know you will. A. I stared at the message for a long time. The old Soren might have responded with hurt or anger or desperate questions about why she was doing this. The new Soren had a better idea. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, my bedroom now, and took a photo of Aven's empty closet. All her clothes gone, hangers scattered on the floor, the space looking abandoned and pathetic. I sent it back with a simple message. Already moved on. My phone stayed silent after that. Tuesday brought another surprise. I was at a job site installing a new system for a paranoid accountant who was convinced his business partner was stealing from him, when my phone rang. Soren, it's Rory. We need to talk. What's wrong? Not over the phone. Can you meet me for lunch? That diner on 5th Street? An hour later, I was sliding into a booth across from Aven's sister, trying to read the expression on her face. Rory has always been hard to figure out. She keeps her emotions locked down tighter than most people keep their valuables. I know about Felix, she said without preamble. How? Because I'm not blind, and because our mother won't shut up about it. She stirred her coffee with more force than necessary. Apparently, it's the talk of her book club. Poor Aven, trapped in a loveless marriage with that boring security man. Boring security man? That's what they're calling me? Among other things. She met my eyes. They think you drove her to it. Too cold, too distant, too focused on work. I laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. Right. It's my fault she's lying to me and sleeping with Felix. That's what they're saying. Mom's already planning the intervention, where they convince you to forgive her and take her back. That's not going to happen. Good. The word came out harder than I expected. Soren, can I tell you something? Sure. I've never liked the way my sister treats you. Not ever. You're a good man, and you deserve better than someone who sees you as a comfortable backup plan. That hit harder than I expected. Is that what I am? That's what you've been. The question is what you're going to be now. I thought about Dean's legal papers, about the locks I'd changed, about the photo of the empty closet. I'm going to be someone who doesn't get taken advantage of anymore. Rory smiled for the first time since I'd sat down. Good, because if you need help with that, I'm in. Why would you help me against your own sister? Because she's my sister, not my friend, and because someone needs to teach her that actions have consequences. That night, I got another text. This time, it was from Felix. We need to talk, man to man. I showed it to Rory, who'd stopped by with groceries and stayed for dinner. She read it and snorted. Man to man? What is he, 12? Should I respond? Absolutely, but not the way he expects. She was right. Felix was expecting anger, threats, maybe a dramatic confrontation where I'd make a scene and give him ammunition to paint me as the unstable husband. Instead, I sent back a simple message. Talk to my lawyer, Dean Calix and Associates. My phone rang within minutes. Soren, come on. Felix's voice was smooth, practiced. We don't need lawyers involved in this. We're adults. We can work this out. Work what out exactly? Look, I know this is awkward, but Aven and we didn't plan for this to happen. It just did. These things happen between people sometimes. These things. Chemistry, connection. You know how it is. I looked at Rory, who was listening with an expression of pure disgust. Actually, Felix, I don't know how it is. I've never cheated on my wife. Soren, be reasonable. Aven's not happy. She hasn't been happy for a long time. Don't you want her to be happy? I want her to be honest. She's trying to find a way to tell you that doesn't hurt you. By lying about where she is and sneaking around behind my back. There was a pause. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's actually very simple. She made her choice, and now I'm making mine. I hung up. Rory was grinning. That was perfect. Was it? Felix Rourke is used to getting what he wants through charm and manipulation. You just treated him like the insignificant annoyance he is. Trust me, that's going to eat at him. She was right. Over the next few days, Felix called 6 more times. I didn't answer. He sent texts ranging from apologetic to angry to threatening. I forwarded them all to Dean. This guy's a piece of work, Dean said when I stopped by his office Friday afternoon. But he's also making our case stronger with every message. Harassment, intimidation, interference with marriage. It's like he's building our evidence file for us. What about Aven? Radio silence from her end, but I did some digging. She's been staying at the Grandview for 8 days now. That's not cheap. Either Felix is paying, or she's burning through her savings fast. How fast? Dean showed me a printout. At current rates, she's got maybe 2 more weeks before her credit cards max out. Then what? Then she comes home expecting forgiveness and a fresh start. The question is, will you be ready for her? I thought about the empty closet, the changed locks, the divorce papers already filed. I'll be ready. That weekend, I decided to do some reconnaissance of my own. Not stalking exactly, just gathering information. In the security business, you learn that knowledge is power, and I was feeling distinctly underpowered in this situation. The Grandview Hotel sits downtown, all glass and steel and expensive pretension. I parked across the street Saturday afternoon and waited. I didn't have to wait long. Aven emerged around 3, wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse that cost more than most people spend on groceries in a month. She looked good, rested, confident, like someone without a care in the world. Felix appeared beside her, his hand on her lower back in a gesture that was probably meant to be protective, but just looked possessive. They walked to his Porsche, laughing about something I couldn't hear. He opened her door, she slid in with practiced grace, and they drove off toward the expensive part of town. I followed at a distance. They went to lunch at Meridian, the kind of place that charges $50 for a steak and acts like they're doing you a favor. Through the window, I watched them share appetizers and wine, looking for all the world like a couple celebrating something special. Maybe they were. After lunch, they drove to Felix's building. I parked where I could see the entrance and settled in to wait. 2 hours later, they emerged again, this time dressed for evening. Aven had changed into a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. Felix wore a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. They looked happy. Genuinely, effortlessly happy in a way that Aven and I hadn't looked in years. That should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I found myself thinking about what Rory had said. Maybe this really was for the best. Maybe Aven and I had been holding each other back, going through the motions of a marriage that had run its course years ago. But that didn't excuse the lying, or the sneaking around, or the complete lack of respect for our shared history. Those things had consequences. I was about to leave when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop following us. This is harassment." I looked up at Felix's building. Someone was watching from a window on the 15th floor, though I couldn't make out details from this distance. I typed back, public street, public sidewalk, public right to be here. The response came quickly. We can get a restraining order. Go ahead, I'll see you in court. No more messages came. Sunday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was drinking coffee and reading the paper when someone knocked on my front door. Through the security peephole I'd installed last year, I could see a woman I didn't recognize, middle-aged, well-dressed, carrying what looked like a casserole dish. I opened the door but left the chain on. Can I help you? You're Soren, right? Aven's husband? She had the kind of smile that was trying too hard to be friendly. I'm Patricia Marsh. I work with Aven at the logistics firm. I unhooked the chain and opened the door properly. Nice to meet you. I brought you a tuna casserole. Thought you might be having a hard time with Aven away on her retreat. Retreat. Right. That's very thoughtful, I said, accepting the dish. Would you like to come in for coffee? Oh, I couldn't impose. But she was already stepping inside, looking around with obvious curiosity. Aven's told us so much about your lovely home. I led her to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of coffee. Patricia settled herself at the table like she was planning to stay a while. So, how's the retreat going? She asked. Aven must be having a wonderful time. She seems to be finding what she's looking for. These wellness programs can be so transformative. I did one myself last year after my divorce. Really helped me figure out what I wanted from life. She sipped her coffee and studied my face. Of course, it's hard on the spouse left behind. All that uncertainty. I'm managing. I'm sure you are. Aven always says you're so independent, so self-sufficient. There was something in her tone that made it sound less like a compliment. She worries sometimes that you don't really need her. Interesting. What makes her think that? Oh, you know how it is. You work such long hours, you have your own hobbies and interests. She sometimes feels like she's just there, like you'd be just as happy living alone. I thought about the past week, the quiet house, the lack of drama, the freedom to make decisions without checking with someone else first. Would that be such a bad thing? Patricia's smile faltered slightly. Well, marriage is supposed to be a partnership, isn't it? 2 people who need each other? I thought it was supposed to be 2 people who choose each other. She finished her coffee quickly after that and made her excuses. I watched from the window as she got into her car and immediately pulled out her phone. Reporting back, no doubt. The casserole went straight into the trash. Monday brought news from Dean. Good news from a legal standpoint. Your wife's been busy, he said when I arrived at his office. 3 more hotel charges, 2 expensive dinners, and a shopping spree that would make a lottery winner blush. How much? $1,500 in one afternoon, at stores she's never shopped at before. He slid a printout across the desk. Lingerie, jewelry, perfume, the whole mistress starter kit. I studied the receipts. Everything purchased on our joint credit card, of course. Can we stop the card? Already done. As of this morning, she's financially cut off from all joint accounts. What happens when she tries to use it? Declined. Embarrassingly, publicly declined. Dean's smile was predatory. I'm guessing we'll hear from her soon. We didn't have to wait long. My phone rang at 2:47 p.m. Soren? Aven's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. What did you do to our credit cards? Protected our assets. You can't just cut me off financially, I'm your wife. Are you? Because my wife wouldn't lie to me about where she's going or who she's with. Silence on the other end. Aven, are you there? I'm here. Her voice was different now, smaller. Soren, we need to talk. I agree. You should probably start by telling me where you really are. Another pause. I'm at the Grandview, with Felix. Finally, the truth. How long? A week and a half. Why? Because... She struggled for words. Because I needed to figure some things out. And you couldn't figure them out at home? Not with you there. Not with all the history and expectations and… She trailed off. And what? And the way you look at me like I'm disappointing you just by existing. That hit harder than I expected. Is that really how you think I see you? Isn't it? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Maybe, but lying to me and cheating on me isn't exactly going to change that. I know it's wrong. But Soren, when I'm with Felix, I feel like myself again. Like the person I used to be before we got so… comfortable. Comfortable. There was that word again. So, what do you want from me, Aven? I want you to understand. I want you to give me time to figure this out without punishing me for being honest. You weren't being honest. You were lying. I'm being honest now. Only because I caught you. She was quiet for a long moment. What do you want me to do? I want you to come home. I want you to end whatever this is with Felix. And I want you to decide if you actually want to be married to me or if you just want the security of having a backup plan. And if I'm not ready to do that, then I guess you'd better figure out how to pay for your own hotel room. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I didn't answer. That evening, Rory stopped by with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. Heard you had an interesting phone call today, she said, settling into the chair across from my kitchen table. How did you hear that? Because Aven called Mom crying, and Mom called me demanding I talk sense into you. She opened the wine with practiced efficiency. I told her I'd talk to you, but I didn't promise what I'd say. What are you going to say? That it's about time someone held my sister accountable for her choices. She poured wine into 2 glasses and handed me one. She's been skating through life on charm and other people's patience for too long. Her co-worker came by yesterday, Patricia something, made it sound like I was the problem in our marriage. Patricia Marsh? She's been divorced 3 times. I wouldn't take relationship advice from her. Rory sipped her wine. But she's not wrong that you and Aven have problems. The difference is, you're trying to solve them honestly. Am I? Because cutting off her credit cards feels pretty vindictive. It's not vindictive if it's protecting yourself. Which it is. She leaned forward. Soren, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you actually want her back? The question hung in the air between us. I thought about Aven laughing with Felix, about the empty closet, about how quiet and peaceful the house had been without her constant drama. I don't know, I said finally. I want her back. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. You love the idea of your marriage more than you love your actual marriage. When did you get so wise about relationships? When I went through my own divorce and realized that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is stop enabling their worst behavior. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. It struck me how easy this was, sitting with Rory, talking honestly, not having to manage anyone's emotions or navigate hidden agendas. Can I stay here tonight? She asked as we were cleaning up. My apartment's being fumigated and I really don't want to stay at Mom's and listen to her lecture me about family loyalty. Of course, guest room's all yours. That night, I lay in bed thinking about Rory's question. Did I want Aven back, or did I just want to win? 3 days later, Aven came home. I was in the garage, organizing my tools and trying to fix a motion sensor that had been acting up when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the small window, I could see Felix's Porsche, engine running, Aven getting out with her suitcases. She looked different somehow, smaller. The confidence I'd seen at the restaurant was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like nervousness. I watched her approach the front door, watched her try her key, watched her face when it didn't work. She tried again, then knocked. I let her wait. Finally, I walked through the house and opened the door. She was standing there with her bags at her feet, looking like a stranger asking for directions. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Can I come in?" I stepped aside without saying anything. She dragged her suitcases into the entryway and looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. "You changed the locks," she said. "I did." "Why?" "Because I didn't know who might have keys to my house." She winced at the word my, but didn't argue. "Soren, we need to talk." "I agree, but first, you should probably tell Felix he can leave. This is between us." She glanced toward the window where the Porsche was still visible. "He was just making sure I got here safely." "How considerate." She pulled out her phone and sent a text. A minute later, the Porsche pulled away. We were alone. "Do you want coffee?" I asked. "Please." I made 2 cups while she sat at the kitchen table, looking around with that same strange expression, like she was trying to remember something important. "The house looks good," she said when I sat down across from her. "Thanks. Clean, organized. I've had time to catch up on things." She nodded and sipped her coffee. "Soren, I owe you an apology." "For which part?" "For lying, for sneaking around, for handling this whole thing badly." She met my eyes. "I should have been honest from the beginning." "Why weren't you?" "Because I was scared, because I didn't know how to tell you that I was falling in love with someone else." Falling in love. Not just physical attraction or temporary insanity. Love. "How long?" I asked. "How long what?" "How long have you been falling in love with Felix?" She was quiet for a long moment. 6 months, maybe longer. 6 months. While we were going to marriage counseling, while we were talking about taking a vacation together, while I was trying to fix whatever was broken between us. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I thought it would pass. I thought it was just, I don't know, a midlife crisis or something. She twisted her wedding ring around her finger. But it didn't pass. It got stronger. "So you decided to test it out with a fake retreat story." "I decided to give myself space to figure out what I really wanted." "And what do you really want, Aven?" She looked at me for a long time before answering. "I want to not have to choose." There it was. The truth, finally. "You want me to be okay with you having a boyfriend." "I want you to understand that love isn't always simple, that sometimes you can care about more than one person." "Care about, sure. Sleep with? That's different." Her face flushed. "It's not just physical." "I didn't say it was, but it is adultery." "God, you make it sound so clinical. What would you prefer I call it?" She stood up abruptly and started pacing. "I would prefer you try to understand instead of judging me." "I'm not judging you. I'm trying to figure out where that leaves us." "It leaves us trying to work this out like adults." "Adults who are honest with each other?" "Yes." "Adults who don't sneak around and lie?" "Yes." "Adults who respect their marriage vows?" She stopped pacing. "That's not fair." "Which part?" "You're trying to trap me with semantics." "I'm trying to understand what you want from me. You say you want honesty and adult conversation, but you also want me to be okay with you continuing to see Felix. Those things don't go together." She sat back down, looking defeated. "I don't know how to give him up." "Because you love him." "Yes. More than you love me. Differently than I love you." I thought about that. "Explain." "With you, I love our history, our comfort, the life we built together. With Felix, I love who I am when I'm with him, the person I could become." "And you can't be that person with me?" "I've tried, we both have, but we keep falling back into the same patterns." She wasn't wrong about that. We had fallen into patterns, comfortable, predictable, ultimately unsatisfying patterns. "So what are you proposing?" "I'm proposing we take some time, real time, to figure out if we can build something new together or if we should let each other go. While you continue seeing Felix. While we both figure out what we really want. I already know what I want, Aven. I want a wife who wants to be married to me. not someone who's keeping me around as a backup plan while she explores other options. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Before she could answer, we heard the front door open. Footsteps in the hallway, then Rory appeared in the kitchen doorway. She was wearing scrubs from her shift at the hospital, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, looking tired but alert. When she saw Aven, her expression went carefully neutral. "Oh," Aven said. "I didn't know you were here." "I'm staying in the guest room for a few days," Rory replied. "Apartment issues." "Since when?" "Since 3 days ago." Aven looked between us, something shifting in her expression. 3 days ago, right after I called Soren. "Right after you got your credit cards cut off," Rory corrected, "and you just happened to need a place to stay." I needed a place to stay, and Soren offered, because that's what decent people do for each other. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. "Rory," I said carefully, "maybe give us some privacy?" "Actually," Aven said, standing up, "I think this is exactly the conversation we need to have." She turned to her sister. "How long have you been waiting for this?" "Waiting for what?" "For my marriage to fall apart so you could swoop in and comfort my husband." Rory's laugh was sharp and humorless. "You think this is about me wanting Soren?" "Isn't it? You've always been jealous of what I have." "What you have? You mean the husband you've been cheating on? The marriage you've been sabotaging? The life you just walked away from to shack up with Felix Rourke?" "I didn't walk away from anything. I'm here, aren't I?" "You're here because Felix's credit limit is lower than your spending habits." That hit home. Aven's face went white. "That's not why I'm here." "No? Then why are you here, Aven? Really?" Aven looked at me, then back at Rory. "I'm here because this is my home, because Soren is my husband, because I want to work this out." "You want to work it out, or you want to have it both ways?" "I want my family to support me instead of attacking me." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started lying to your family." I stood up. This was getting out of hand fast. "Both of you, stop. This isn't helping anyone." "You're right," Aven said. "Rory, could you give us some space? This is between me and my husband." Rory looked at me. I nodded. "Fine," she said. "But Aven, if you hurt him again, family or no family, we're going to have a problem." She left, and the kitchen felt enormous and empty. "She's protective of you," Aven said after a moment. "She's protective of everyone she cares about. It's who she is." "Is that all this is?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you sleeping with my sister?" The question hit like a slap. "Are you serious?" You didn't answer. "No, Aven, I'm not sleeping with your sister. Unlike some people in this room, I take my marriage vows seriously." She flinched, but didn't back down. "It would be understandable if you were. Revenge and all that. This isn't about revenge, isn't it? The locks, the credit cards, the lawyer, none of that feels like revenge to you? It feels like self-protection. Same thing sometimes." Maybe she was right about that. Maybe the line between self-protection and revenge was thinner than I wanted to admit. "What do you want from me, Aven? Really?" She sat back down, suddenly looking exhausted. "I want you to fight for me." "Fight for you how?" "I want you to care enough to be angry, to be hurt, to try to win me back instead of just letting me go. You want me to compete with Felix. I want you to show me that our marriage means something to you." I thought about that. "And if I don't? If I decide it's not worth fighting for? Then I guess we'll know where we stand." "We already know where we stand, Aven. You chose Felix. You chose him 6 months ago, and you've been choosing him every day since. The only question is whether you're brave enough to admit it." She started crying then. Not the dramatic tears she used when she wanted something, but quiet, genuine sobs that shook her whole body. "I don't want to lose you," she said. "Then why are you trying so hard to push me away?" "Because I'm scared that if I choose you, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what if. And if I choose him, I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I gave up. So you want me to make the choice for you? She nodded. That's not fair, Aven. That's not how this works. I know, but I don't know how else to handle this. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. The woman I'd married 8 years ago, the woman I'd built a life with, the woman who was now asking me to compete for her affections like some kind of prize. I can't do it, I said finally. Can't do what? I can't fight for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. I can't compete for my own wife. And I can't pretend that what you did is okay just because you're scared and confused. So that's it? You're giving up? I'm accepting reality. You made your choice, even if you don't want to admit it. She cried harder then, and part of me wanted to comfort her. The old part, the part that had been taking care of her feelings for years while neglecting my own. But the new part, the part that had been growing stronger over the past 2 weeks, stayed in my chair and waited for her to finish. I should go, she said finally. Where? Back to Felix, I guess, since that's what you think I want. It's not about what I think you want. It's about what you actually want. What if I don't know? Then figure it out, but figure it out somewhere else while I figure out what I want. She nodded and wiped her eyes. Can I get some of my things? Take whatever you need. She went upstairs and I heard her moving around in our bedroom, my bedroom, gathering clothes and personal items. When she came back down, she had 2 more bags and a look of grim determination. Soren? Yeah? For what it's worth, I really am sorry. About the lying about the way I handled this. You deserved better. Yeah, I did. She kissed my cheek, the same perfunctory gesture she'd given me the morning she left for her fake retreat. Then she was gone, and the house was quiet again. Rory appeared in the kitchen doorway about 10 minutes later. You okay? She asked. I think so. You? I'm proud of you. For what? For not letting her manipulate you into taking responsibility for her choices. I thought about that. Is that what she was doing? That's exactly what she was doing. Make you compete with Felix, make you fight for her, make the whole thing your fault if you don't try hard enough. She sat down across from me. Classic Aven. You really don't like your sister much, do you? I love my sister, but I don't like who she becomes when she's scared or backed into a corner. Rory reached across the table and squeezed my hand. She'll be back. You think so? I know so. Felix is fun when you're sneaking around and playing house at expensive hotels. He's different when you're actually depending on him for real support. What if she's really in love with him? Then she'll figure that out too. But either way, you can't save her from her own choices. That night, after Rory went to bed, I sat in my kitchen drinking beer and thinking about the conversation with Aven, about the tears, the manipulation, the way she'd tried to make me responsible for fixing what she'd broken. The old Soren would have spent the night agonizing over whether he'd done the right thing. The new Soren was just tired. My phone buzzed with a text from Felix. She's back. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding. Another text, this time from Aven. I'm sorry about tonight. I handled it badly. I stared at that one for a long time before deleting it too. The third text came from an unknown number. This isn't over. That one I screenshot and forwarded to Dean. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning brought news that changed everything. I was drinking coffee and reading installation manuals when Rory came downstairs, already dressed for work, but moving with unusual urgency. Turn on the news, she said. What channel? Any channel, local news. I found the remote and flipped to Channel 7. The morning anchors were discussing a story that made my coffee go cold. Prominent local businessman Felix Rourke was arrested last night on charges of embezzlement and fraud, According to sources close to the investigation, Rourke allegedly used his consulting firm to funnel money from client accounts into personal investments. The screen showed footage of Felix being led away in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his face hidden behind a lawyer's briefcase. "Holy hell," I said. "It gets better," Rory said. "Keep watching." Investigation began after tips from multiple sources suggested irregularities in Rourke's business practices. Among the evidence seized were financial records, computer files, and what sources describe as extensive documentation of personal expenditures funded by client money. The camera cut to a reporter standing outside Felix's building. "We're told that Rourke's penthouse apartment and all associated assets have been frozen pending investigation. If convicted, he could face up to 15 years in prison." I turned off the TV and looked at Rory. "When did this happen?" "Late last night, apparently. It's been all over the police scanner since about 2 a.m. "Does Aven know?" "If she was with him when they arrested him, she knows." My phone, which I'd turned back on that morning, started buzzing with missed calls and messages. 3 from Aven, 2 from unknown numbers, 1 from Dean. I called Dean first. "Did you see the news?" he asked without preamble. "Just now." "This changes things significantly. If your wife was involved in any of Rourke's financial activities, she could be looking at criminal charges herself." "What kind of involvement?" "Money laundering, conspiracy, accessory charges. Depends on how much she knew and when she knew it." Papers rustled in the background. "Soren, I need you to think carefully. Did Aven ever mention Felix's business? Any unusual income, expensive gifts, anything that might suggest she knew where his money was coming from?" I thought about the shopping sprees, the expensive hotels, the designer clothes I'd never seen before. "She's been spending a lot of money lately, more than usual, and all on things she never bought before." "Funded how?" "Our joint accounts, mostly, but also—" I paused, remembering. "She mentioned Felix paying for things. Dinners, hotels, shopping trips. That's not good. If prosecutors can show she knowingly benefited from the proceeds of his crimes, she's in serious trouble." "How serious?" "Serious enough that she's going to need her own lawyer. And serious enough that you need to protect yourself legally." "How?" "Complete financial separation, immediately, and documentation of everything, every transaction, every purchase, every interaction. If this goes to trial, you don't want to be anywhere near the blast radius." After I hung up with Dean, I listened to Aven's messages. The first one was from early morning, her voice shaky. "Soren, something's happened. Felix was arrested. I don't know what's going on. Can you call me?" The second one, an hour later. "Please call me back. I'm scared, and I don't know what to do." The third one, just 20 minutes ago. "The police want to talk to me. I need help. Please." I showed the messages to Rory. "Are you going to call her back?" she asked. "I don't know. Should I?" "That depends. Do you want to get dragged into a federal investigation?" "She's still my wife. She's still the woman who cheated on you with a criminal." Put like that, the choice seemed clearer. I called Dean back. "Don't contact her," he said immediately. "Don't take her calls. Don't let her come to the house. Don't get involved in any way. If she's charged, anything you say or do could be used against both of you." "What if she shows up here?" "Then you tell her to contact her own attorney and you close the door." "That seems cold." "Soren, listen to me very carefully. Your wife spent the last 2 weeks living off money that may have been stolen from pension funds and charity accounts. She may not have known it was stolen, but ignorance isn't a defense if prosecutors decide to make an example of her. And if I help her? Then you become part of the story. Is that what you want?" It wasn't. I spent the rest of the day at work, installing a security system for a small business owner who was convinced his employees were stealing from him. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed constantly, more calls from Aven, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, even a call from Patricia Marsh asking if I'd heard from Aven. I ignored them all. That evening, Rory and I were making dinner when someone pounded on the front door. Not knocked, pounded, like they were trying to break it down. Through the security peephole, I could see Aven. She looked terrible, hair disheveled, makeup smeared, clothes wrinkled like she'd been wearing them for days. "Soren!" she shouted. "I know you're in there. Please, I need to talk to you." I looked at Rory, who shook her head firmly. "Soren, please. The police think I was involved in Felix's business. They think I knew about the money." More pounding. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know where the money came from. Please, you have to believe me." I believed her, actually. Aven was many things, but she wasn't a criminal. She was just someone who'd gotten in way over her head with a man who turned out to be much more dangerous than either of them realized. But believing her and helping her were two different things. "Go away, Aven," I called through the door. "Get a lawyer." "I can't afford a lawyer. Felix's assets are frozen and you cut off my credit cards." "That's not my problem anymore." "Yes, it is. I'm still your wife. You're the wife who chose someone else." Silence for a moment, then more pounding. "Soren, please. I made mistakes, but I don't deserve this." Maybe she didn't. But I didn't deserve what she'd put me through either. "Call your mother," I said. "Call your friends. Call someone who isn't married to you." "They won't take my calls. Nobody will take my calls." That stopped me. I looked through the peephole again. Aven was leaning against the door now, crying. "Why won't they take your calls?" "Because it's all over the news. My name, my picture, everything. They're calling me Felix's accomplice." I hadn't seen that part of the coverage. "Are you?" "No, God, no, I let him pay for things. I didn't ask where the money came from." That was stupid. I know that now. I stood there for a long time, listening to her cry, fighting every instinct that told me to open the door and try to fix this for her. "Aven?" "Yeah?" "I can't help you. Not with this." "Why not?" "Because helping you means risking everything I have left, and I'm not willing to do that." "So you're just going to abandon me?" "You abandoned me first." More silence. Then the sound of her footsteps walking away. I watched through the window as she got into a taxi, not Felix's Porsche, not her own car, a taxi, and disappeared into the night. "You did the right thing," Rory said quietly. "Did I?" She made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences. Even if the consequences destroy her? Even then. That night, I lay in bed thinking about consequences, about choices and their aftermath, about the woman I'd married and the stranger she'd become. Somewhere across town, Aven was probably lying in a cheap hotel room, wondering how her life had gone so wrong so fast. I felt sorry for her, but I didn't regret closing the door. The story broke wide open the next morning. I was getting ready for work when Rory called from the hospital, her voice tight with urgency. "Turn on Channel 7 now." I found the remote and flipped to the morning news. What I saw made my stomach drop. In a shocking development, federal investigators have expanded their probe into the Felix Rourke embezzlement case. Among those now being questioned is Soren Valden, wife of local security installer Soren Valden. My wedding photo filled the screen, the one from our reception 8 years ago, both of us smiling and happy and completely unaware of how this would all end. Sources close to the investigation say Mrs. Valden may have unknowingly benefited from the proceeds of Rourke's alleged crimes. Financial records show extensive purchases made on joint accounts shared with her husband. The camera cut to a reporter standing outside our house, my house. We attempted to reach Mrs. Valden for comment, but she has not responded to our requests. Her husband also declined to speak with us. I turned off the TV and looked out the front window. 3 news vans were parked on the street, cameras pointed at my front door. My phone was ringing. I checked the caller ID. my boss at Secure Solutions. Soren? Mike's voice was careful, controlled. We need to talk. I figured. Can you come in? Use the back entrance. An hour later, I was sitting in Mike's office while he paced behind his desk like a caged animal. This is a nightmare, he said. The phones haven't stopped ringing. Clients are asking if you're under investigation. The Hendricks account is threatening to cancel. I'm not under investigation. Yet. At all. I had nothing to do with Felix's business. But your wife did. My estranged wife. Mike stopped pacing and looked at me. Estranged? We're separated. Have been for 2 weeks. I filed for divorce. Before or after this Felix thing came out? Before. Way before. Some of the tension left his shoulders. Okay, that's good. That's something we can work with. Work with how? Damage control. We put out a statement saying you and your wife are separated, that you had no knowledge of or involvement in her relationship with Rourke, that Secure Solutions stands behind its employees. Will that be enough? It'll have to be. Because if it isn't... He didn't finish the sentence. I spent the rest of the day at the office, fielding calls from reporters and trying to focus on work while my personal life imploded on live television. Every news update seemed to make things worse. By noon, they were calling Aven Felix's mistress and speculating about how much she'd known about his crimes. By evening, they were showing footage of her being escorted into the federal building downtown for questioning. She looked small and scared and completely out of her depth. I felt sorry for her again, but I still didn't regret closing the door. Dean called around 6. How are you holding up? I've been better. I've been monitoring the coverage. The good news is they're treating you as a victim, not a suspect. The bad news is that could change if they find any evidence you knew about Rourke's activities. I didn't know anything. I believe you. But prosecutors like to cast wide nets. If they can't make their case against the main targets, they start looking for accomplices. What should I do? Keep your head down, don't talk to reporters, and document everything. Every interaction you had with Rourke, every conversation with your wife about money, every purchase that seemed unusual. There were a lot of unusual purchases. Write them all down. Dates, amounts, what was bought. If this goes to trial, that information could be crucial. That night, Rory and I sat at the kitchen table making lists. Every expensive dinner, every shopping spree, every time Aven had come home with something new and expensive. Look at this pattern, Rory said, pointing at the timeline we'd created. The spending really ramped up about 3 months ago. She was right. Before that, Aven's purchases had been normal. Groceries, gas, the occasional splurge on clothes or cosmetics. But starting in late summer, the amounts and frequency had increased dramatically. That's when she started seeing Felix regularly, I realized, and when he started paying for things. Which means she was benefiting from stolen money for months. Rory nodded grimly. Which means she's in real trouble. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang, Aven's name on the caller ID. I looked at Rory, who shook her head, but something made me answer anyway. Hello? Soren? Aven's voice was barely above a whisper. Thank you for taking my call. What do you want? I need help. The FBI questioned me for 6 hours today. They think I was Felix's partner. Were you? No, God no. I didn't know anything about his business. I thought he was just successful. Successful enough to afford $1,000 dinners and weekend trips to expensive hotels. I didn't think about where the money came from. I should have, but I didn't. That's going to be a problem for you. I know. She was crying again. Soren, they're talking about charging me as an accessory. My lawyer says I could go to prison. Your lawyer? Public defender. I can't afford anyone else. I thought about the expensive clothes, the jewelry, the shopping sprees funded by stolen money. What happened to all the things Felix bought you? Seized. Everything. They took it all as evidence. Where are you staying? Motel 6 on Highway 9. It's all I can afford. The contrast was stark, from penthouse suites to roadside motels in less than a week. I'm sorry this happened to you, Aven, but I can't help you. Why not? I'm still your wife. You're the wife who chose someone else, someone who turned out to be a criminal. I didn't know he was a criminal, but you knew he wasn't your husband. Silence on the other end. That's not fair, she said finally. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you being honest with me from the beginning. Fair would have been you ending our marriage before starting a new relationship. Fair would have been you not spending our money on your affair. I made mistakes. You made choices. And now you're living with the consequences. So you're really going to abandon me? When I need you most? I'm going to protect myself. Like I should have done months ago. I hung up. Rory was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. You okay? She asked. I think so. Good, because she's going to keep calling, and it's going to get harder to say no. Why? Because she's going to get more desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. Rory was right. Over the next 3 days, Aven called 17 times. When I stopped answering, she started texting. When I stopped reading the texts, she started showing up. The first time was Thursday morning. I was leaving for work when I found her sitting on my front porch, looking like she'd been there all night. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Soren, please, 5 minutes. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. The professional makeup and perfectly styled hair were gone too. She looked like a regular person for the first time in years. She also looked desperate. 5 minutes, I said. Thank you. We sat on the porch steps like teenagers hiding from parents. I've been thinking about what you said, she began, about choices and consequences. And you're right. I made bad choices. I hurt you. I lied to you. I took advantage of your trust. Okay, but Soren, I'm asking you to look past that. Not forgive it, just look past it long enough to help me get through this. Help you how? Vouch for me. Tell the FBI that I'm not a criminal, that I was just stupid and naive. You want me to lie for you. I want you to tell them the truth, that I'm not capable of the things they think I did. I thought about that. What exactly do they think you did? They think I helped Felix move money. They think I knew about the fake accounts and the shell companies. They think I was his partner. Why would they think that? She was quiet for a long moment. Because some of the transactions went through accounts with my name on them. That hit like a punch to the gut. What accounts? Joint accounts. With you. Our joint accounts? She nodded. Aven, what did you do? I didn't do anything. Felix had me sign some papers, said they were insurance forms for the trips we were taking. I didn't know they were bank authorizations. You signed papers without reading them? He said they were just formalities. I trusted him. You trusted a man you were having an affair with to handle legal documents involving your husband's money. When you put it like that, it sounds terrible. It is terrible. It's also potentially criminal. She started crying again. I know how bad this looks. But Soren, you know me. You know I would never intentionally do something like this. I did know her. And she was right. Aven was many things. But she wasn't a criminal mastermind. She was someone who'd gotten in over her head with a man who'd taken advantage of her naivety. But that didn't change the facts. How much money went through our accounts? I don't know. The FBI wouldn't tell me. Guess. Maybe 50,000? $50,000 of stolen money went through accounts with my name on them. It wasn't supposed to be stolen. I thought it was Felix's money. But it wasn't. No, I stood up. I can't help you, Aven. Why not? Because helping you means admitting I knew about financial transactions I didn't know about. It means getting involved in a federal investigation. It means risking my job, my reputation, my freedom. I would never let them charge you with anything. You don't get to make that decision. She grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. Please, I'm begging you. I have no one else. You have your mother, your friends. They won't return my calls. Mom says I've embarrassed the family. My friends are afraid of being associated with me. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started your affair. I can't change what I did, but I can't survive this alone. I looked down at her, sitting on my porch steps, crying and desperate and completely alone. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, the woman who'd destroyed our life together for a relationship that had turned into a nightmare. I felt sorry for her, but I didn't open the door. Get a better lawyer, I said. Tell the truth. Hope for the best. That's it? That's it. I went inside and locked the door behind me. She sat on the porch for another hour before finally leaving. That afternoon, Dean called with an update. The FBI wants to interview you, he said. When? Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. at the Federal Building. Do I need a lawyer? You need me. I'll meet you there at 9:30. What are they going to ask? Everything. Your marriage, your finances, your knowledge of Rourke's business, your wife's spending habits. They're trying to determine if you were involved or if you're just collateral damage. I'm collateral damage. I know that, but they don't know that yet. That night, Rory helped me prepare for the interview. We went through bank statements, credit card bills, and every document related to our joint finances. This is actually good news, she said, studying the paperwork. Look at the pattern of your spending versus hers. Yours stayed consistent. Work expenses, groceries, utilities, the occasional night out. Hers went crazy starting 3 months ago. That helps? It shows you weren't benefiting from whatever Felix was doing. Your lifestyle didn't change. Hers did. She was right. While Aven had been spending money on expensive clothes and jewelry, I'd continued living the same modest lifestyle I'd always lived. There's something else, Rory said, pointing to a series of transfers. Look at these dates. I looked. The transfers corresponded exactly with the dates Aven had claimed to be working late or visiting friends. She was moving money on the nights she said she was somewhere else. Which means she was lying to you about more than just the affair. The next morning, Dean and I sat in a sterile conference room in the Federal Building while 2 FBI agents asked me questions about my wife, my marriage, and my money. Agent Sarah Martinez was the lead investigator, mid-40s, professional, with the kind of direct gaze that made you want to confess to crimes you hadn't committed. Her partner, Agent James Chen, was younger, quieter, but no less intimidating. Mr. Valden, Agent Martinez began, how long have you been married to Soren Valden? 8 years. And how would you describe your marriage? I glanced at Dean, who nodded slightly. Troubled. We've been having problems for about a year. What kind of problems? Communication issues, growing apart, the usual things. Were you aware that your wife was having an affair with Felix Rourke? Not initially. I found out about 2 weeks ago. How did you find out? I told them about the fake retreat story, the hotel receipts, Felix's text messages. They took notes and asked follow-up questions about dates and details. When you discovered the affair, what did you do? I changed the locks, froze our joint accounts, and filed for divorce. Why did you freeze the accounts? To protect our assets during the divorce proceedings. Agent Chen leaned forward. Did you notice any unusual spending patterns in those accounts? Yes. Starting about 3 months ago, my wife began making expensive purchases that were out of character for her. Can you be more specific? I pulled out the list Rory and I had prepared. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, frequent dinners at high-end restaurants, Hotel stays, spa treatments, things she'd never shown interest in before. Did you ask her about these purchases? A few times. She said she was treating herself, that she deserved nice things. Did you know that some of these purchases may have been funded by money stolen from Mr. Rourke's clients? I had no idea. I thought Felix was just successful and generous. When did you last speak to Mr. Rourke? He called me after I found out about the affair. Wanted to talk man to man about the situation. What did you tell him? To contact my lawyer. Agent Martinez made a note. Mr. Valden, we need to ask you about some specific financial transactions. She slid a document across the table. Bank records showing transfers I'd never seen before. These transactions went through accounts with your name on them. Were you aware of them? I studied the records. $53,000 in transfers over a 3-month period. Money coming in from accounts I didn't recognize. Money going out to accounts I'd never heard of. I've never seen these before. Your signature is on the authorization forms. That's not my signature. Dean leaned over to look at the documents. Agent Martinez, are you suggesting my client forged these signatures? I'm asking if he recognizes them. I looked more closely. The signatures were close to mine, but not quite right. The S in Soren was too elaborate. The V in Valden too angular. Someone forged my signature, I said. Who had access to your signature? My wife. She'd seen me sign documents hundreds of times. The agents exchanged glances. Mr. Valden, Agent Chen said, we need to ask you directly. Did you have any knowledge of or involvement in Felix Rourke's financial activities? None whatsoever. Did you ever meet with Mr. Rourke to discuss business matters? No. Did you ever receive money from Mr. Rourke or any of his associated companies? Not directly, but apparently money from his companies went through my accounts without my knowledge. Are you willing to take a polygraph test to verify these statements? I looked at Dean, who nodded. Yes. The interview lasted another hour, but the tone had shifted. They were no longer treating me as a potential suspect, but as a victim of my wife's poor judgment. When we finally left the federal building, Dean was smiling. That went well, he said. Did it? They believe you. More importantly, they have evidence that supports your story. The forged signatures, the spending patterns, the timeline of events. It all backs up your claim that you were unaware of what was happening. What happens now? Now they focus on the real culprits, your wife and Rourke. What's going to happen to Aven? That depends on how much she actually knew and how good her lawyer is, but based on what we just heard, she's in serious trouble. That evening, I was sitting in my kitchen, trying to process everything that had happened, when someone knocked on the door. Through the peephole, I could see a woman I didn't recognize, well-dressed, professional-looking, carrying a briefcase. Mr. Valden? I'm Jennifer Walsh, attorney for Aven Valden. Could we speak for a moment? I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What can I do for you, Ms. Walsh? I understand you were interviewed by the FBI today regarding my client. That's correct. I'm hoping you might be willing to provide a character reference for Mrs. Valden. A character reference? Yes, someone to testify that she's not the kind of person who would knowingly participate in financial crimes. But she is the kind of person who would have an affair and lie about it. Ms. Walsh's professional smile faltered slightly. Mr. Valden, I understand you're angry about your marital situation, but this is bigger than that now. My client is facing serious federal charges because she made serious mistakes, because she trusted the wrong person and got in over her head. Same thing, isn't it? Mr. Valden, your wife could go to prison for 10 years. Doesn't that matter to you at all? I thought about that question. Did it matter to me if Aven went to prison? Did I want to see her life destroyed because of her poor choices? The answer was complicated. Ms. Walsh, your client chose to have an affair with a criminal. She chose to let him use our joint accounts for illegal transactions. She chose to forge my signature on bank documents. Those aren't the actions of an innocent victim. She says she didn't know the money was stolen. She knew it wasn't hers. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Ms. Walsh tried a different approach. What if I could guarantee that helping my client wouldn't put you at any legal risk? You can't guarantee that. I can structure your testimony so that you're simply providing character background, not admitting to any knowledge of the alleged crimes. Ms. Walsh, let me ask you something. If your client had come to me 3 months ago and said she was unhappy in our marriage and wanted a divorce, I would have been hurt, but I would have respected her honesty. If she'd asked for financial support during the divorce, I probably would have agreed to reasonable terms. Okay. Instead, she lied to me, cheated on me, stole from me, and dragged me into a federal investigation. Now she wants me to help her avoid the consequences of those choices. She made mistakes. She made choices, and I'm making mine. Which is? To protect myself and let her face the consequences of her actions? Ms. Walsh nodded and closed her briefcase. I understand your position, Mr. Valden, but I hope you'll reconsider. Whatever problems you had in your marriage, I don't think you really want to see your wife go to prison. After she left, I sat on my porch and thought about her words. Did I want to see Aven go to prison? Did I want her life destroyed? The honest answer was no. I didn't want to see her suffer despite everything she'd done. But I also couldn't save her from the consequences of her own choices. Not without risking everything I had left. My phone rang. Rory. How did the FBI interview go? Better than expected. They don't think I was involved. That's good news. Aven's lawyer just stopped by. Wants me to provide a character reference. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Part of me thinks I should help her. She's still my wife, and she's in real trouble. And the other part? The other part thinks she made her bed and now she needs to lie in it. Which part is right? I don't know. Rory was quiet for a moment. Soren, can I ask you something? Sure. If Aven hadn't gotten involved with a criminal, if Felix had just been a regular guy she was having an affair with, would you have fought harder to save your marriage? I thought about that. Probably not. Why? Because the affair was just the symptom. The real problem was that we'd both checked out of the marriage a long time ago. We were just going through the motions. Then maybe this whole situation, as terrible as it is actually doing you both a favor. How do you figure? It's forcing you both to face the truth about what your marriage really was. And it's giving you a chance to start over with someone who actually wants to be with you. Are you talking about anyone in particular? I could hear her smile through the phone. Maybe. That night, I made my decision about Aven's character reference. I called Ms. Walsh and told her I wouldn't be providing one. May I ask why? She said. Because the most honest thing I could say about your client is that she's someone who makes impulsive decisions without considering the consequences. I don't think that's going to help her case. Mr. Valden, please reconsider. She needs all the support she can get. Then she should have thought about that before she destroyed her support system. 2 days later, the local news reported that Aven had accepted a plea deal. 3 years in federal prison in exchange for cooperating with the investigation into Felix's crimes. 3 years. I felt sick when I heard the news. Whatever Aven had done, whatever mistakes she'd made, 3 years seemed like a lifetime. But then I remembered the forged signatures, the lies, the money that had flowed through our accounts without my knowledge. I remembered the way she'd tried to manipulate me into competing for her affections, the way she'd asked me to risk my own freedom to help her escape the consequences of her choices. 3 years was a long time, but it was also what she'd earned. That evening, Rory came over with dinner and a bottle of wine. How are you doing? She asked. I'm not sure. Relieved, I guess, but also sad. Sad for her or sad for what you thought your marriage was? Both. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Rory reached across the table and took my hand. Soren? Yeah? I know this isn't the right time, and I know the situation is complicated, but I need to tell you something. What? I'm falling in love with you. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Rory, who'd been there for me when everything fell apart. Rory, who'd helped me see the truth about my marriage. Rory, who'd never lied to me or manipulated me or asked me to be someone I wasn't. The timing is terrible, I said. I know. People are going to think this started before Aven left. I know. Your family is going to hate us both. Probably. And I'm technically still married. For now. I squeezed her hand. But I'm falling in love with you too. She smiled. So what do? We take it slow. We wait for the divorce to be final. We deal with whatever consequences come. And in the meantime? In the meantime, we figure out what it's like to be with someone who actually wants to be with us. 3 months later, Aven reported to federal prison to begin serving her sentence. I didn't go to see her off, but I did write her a letter. I told her that I was sorry things had ended the way they did. I told her that I hoped she would use her time in prison to figure out who she really wanted to be. And I told her that when she got out, I hoped she would find someone who could love her the way she deserved to be loved. I didn't tell her about Rory. She would find out eventually, but not from me. 6 months after that, my divorce was final. Rory and I got married a year later, in a small ceremony with just a few close friends. We didn't invite my former in-laws, and we didn't send announcements to the local newspaper. We just promised to be honest with each other, to respect each other's choices, and to never take each other for granted. It was the best decision I ever made. Sometimes I think about Aven, serving her sentence, and probably wondering how her life went so wrong so fast. I hope she's learned from her mistakes. I hope she's found some peace. But mostly, I don't think about her at all. I'm too busy being happy with the life I chose instead of the one that was chosen for me. And that, I've learned, makes all the difference.